and counting us into audio in three, two, one.
Welcome to episode 133 of the Narcissistic Music Disorder.
Hey, buddy, I'm so sorry, everybody. We have been the NMD headquarters have been wrought with illness lately. And
Yeah,
I think most of the Midwest has. It's just I know my area around here, everybody has something gross and no fun. And um, I work in a school, and man, I try my hardest. I don't think I'm as diligent. I'm pretty diligent with hand washing. I'm not as diligent as I once was, obviously, during the pandemic. I got to get better at that. I drink a ton of water.
yeah,
Um, you know, I don't know about you, dude. You and I coming from our backgrounds. Um, God, feeling good is amazing.
yeah.
It baffles my mind how much of my life I haven't felt good because of because of my life choices.
Yeah,
It's like, holy shit, man. Your health is a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm just, and it,
how's that? What's the saying go? When you're well, you want a million things. When you're sick, you only want one.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Dude, that's the truth. And you talk about messing with your mental health. It's just like there were a couple, honest to God, there was a time in this last week of this thing I've had. And if I cough, you guys, I'm going to try to get off the mic and even mute if I can. But there were a couple times when I'm like, they're going to admit me, and it's not unheard of for somebody to, you to get that phone call and go, "Hey, man, Frank passed away. What happened? He was in the hospital, dude, with the flu."
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's pretty freaky, man. I'm
it
I'm
is.
hoping to come on the outside. I know you're on the other side of this thing. I know you're not feeling good, pal, and I'm so sorry for that. Um, Again, we answer to the higher power of the almighty NMD podcast. Um, so let's roll right into this today, and it might even be a little abbreviated episode, but what's our topic today, dude?
Historical songs.
Which is, I mean, you sent me a message. It was funny. You sent me a message. You go, "This is kind of hard," and it is. My joke was not if you're an Iron Maiden fan.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
that's true.
um, I think I have one Iron Maiden song, but I I'm hoping I have a pretty good list. I'm hoping that the songs are indeed. I mean, some of them there's like I've got one that's kind of a fictional account with some influence from actual events. Um, and then some other ones we can talk about too. Um, I I don't know, man. The Vietnam War is a great example. Like
Yeah,
you could that's there's a lot of songs about the Vietnam War. Um, there's a lot of songs about some war in general. I think that's
yeah.
um pretty fertile ground. And I tried to mix it up a little bit. And just pick obviously like we always do here. I tried to pick some of my favorites and some that I actually listen to. Um, let's kick it off so we can get you in bed and get you feeling good, bud. What's your number one? What's your first pick? Not number one in order, sorry, but your first pick.
My first one is called Uprising by Muse, and it's all about the G20 riots in England in 2009, where the, you know, boo capitalism type of riots,
Right.
you know.
I,
So,
so that's funny you have that because I almost had the Clash's White Riot.
okay, yeah.
Same deal. Talk
Yep.
about the riots of the 70s. Um, England, for me, and I don't know about you, but historically, I picture like the late 60s in America into the 70s, Vietnam War protests, things like that. But England too, man. England was rich with kind of young people especially uprising, and I'm really in a weird
Feel that
spot.
way.
I'm in such a weird spot in my life right now, but I have to say, um, dude, I'm telling you, the social media and all that stuff, man, it's about division, and that division is on purpose. That is on
Yeah.
purpose because I think the people in power, I'm starting to get really weird too. I hate how I'm getting, but the people in power do not want a bunch of us going, why are we hating each other? Why don't let's, if we took to the streets as a society, there'd be nothing they could do.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So my first one, let's hmm,
And it's like he turned that into a catchy pop song, which is so hard to do.
which is incredibly hard to do. And one, I was thinking about that too. One of my songs on here too. I'm like, these are hit songs. Most of mine are hit songs. I mean, maybe even top tens. Um, which is amazing that you can. I mean, that's what great writers do, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna start my list off with probably one of my favorite songs by this band. A beautiful hit song. It's "Pride in the Name of Love" by U2.
Absolutely.
Um, as a kid, that really did educate me about Martin Luther King. About, I mean, I researched that because of that. Um, especially the dates are in there, and shots ring out in a Memphis sky and all that kind of, and it it feels sometimes like my wife hates you too, right? Hates you
Yeah.
too. Like it's so pompous and everything, but that's an educational song. That's a song that highlighted something for a generation that maybe they weren't talking about that stuff in school a lot when I was a kid. Honest, we didn't talk about those things in school a bunch because it was very, and I love this country. I hope you know that, but it was all very rah rah rah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like we did all these great things and we settled the West and we came to America and we did these great things and and we just didn't talk about the dark side. I mean, dude, I barely remember talking about the Vietnam War when I was in school. I learned more about the Vietnam War from like my scout leader who was in Vietnam
Yeah.
than any history lessons. So Pride in the Name of Love, Sunday Bloody Sunday would have to be in there too. I'll put both in. Um, U2 at one time, I mean, it got big, right? U2 got huge, but at one time they were pretty revolutionary. I think they were kind of a rage against the machine before that sort of thing existed, I guess. So
Yeah.
that's my first one. What do you got next?
The Night Chicago Died by Paper Lace.
That's a jam too. Remember how often that was on the radio?
It's all about the Valentine's Day massacre with Capone and
Um, Again, there you go. There's another dark subject stuck inside this killer pop song.
yeah.
It's so upbeat. Even the "I heard my mama cry."
Does it have
It's like
a Farfisa in there or something
I'm
like
sure
that?
it does, right?
That sound.
Right. And it was a radio staple. Um, and and again, this pretty dark topic, this dark
Yeah.
subject matter wrapped up in a pop tune, which is genius, played on the radio constantly. I mean, constantly. As a matter of fact,
I couldn't name another song by that band.
no. And I actually feel like I remember um like Vicki Lawrence or someone had, someone like that on TV who would say, I mean, it might be a song you'd see on a variety show. They,
Yeah. Oh
they,
yeah.
um, and I should take I know you're not feeling well and I don't want to take too many side streets, but, we had on our Facebook page, the posting about the Kiss tune with Linda,
Yes. Oh God, with Linda Carter. Yeah.
with Linda Carter, right? Um, and I sort of commented on it, but dude, cultural phenomenon. Just don't forget that. I want people, Kiss haters, to remember cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Cultural phenomenon.
No denying that.
Um, Good, bad, or otherwise. But yeah, amazing how these things they would. Another song, and this is not a historical song, but I remember seeing on TV when I was a little kid is Fancy.
Oh
The Bobby
yeah.
Joe Gentry tune that was on TV, a TV show They sang
Yeah, they
it.
made a TV movie.
Right, right. With Robbie Benson. No, was it not Fancy? It was Ode to Billy Joe had a movie too. Um
Yes, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, yes.
yeah,
Oh, to
with
Billy
Barbara
Joel.
Eden and Robbie Benson. Um God, the 70s were weird. Um yeah, great tune, great tune. Let me move on to my next one. Let me see where I'm rolling. This is a tune that I didn't get into until later. Um Later Dylan tune. It's Hurricane by Bob
Yeah,
Dylan about Reuben Hurricane Carter and what Dylan believed to be the false imprisonment and the racial undertones that got Hurricane Carter arrested and imprisoned
yeah.
and in a robbery and I I grew to love this song. I love it so much now. Um but it's a vast song. There's a lot of words to it and it's I mean Dylan's laying it out, man. He's just telling a great story, and it's it's classic Dylan. It's his ability to take on. I've never done it. Of course, I'm not a songwriter like a Bob Dylan or something, but I've never had something happen in life where I've addressed it like that. You know what I mean? Where I've tried
Yeah.
to write about it, but it's killer. And I actually just saw Dylan over the sickness when I was watching YouTube and all that. And boy, I saw some great stuff. But where he was singing it, he was at some like Native American rally and he was singing
Okay.
this, walking with an acoustic through a crowd singing it. It was really cool. I don't know how often he does it live now. What do you got next?
The band played Waltzing Matilda by the Pogues.
I know nothing of it. Tell me what.
It's all about a battle in Australia, I think during World War One. It's just, well, the Pogues.
Sure. Yep.
Sad. I mean, they can make a sad song even sadder,
Sadder.
I guess. That voice and
Take a sad song and make it sadder.
yeah, it's Shane can he just I don't know if it's even theirs. It might be like a one of those, what are they? It's like in jazz, a standard or something like
Like a
that. Like
traditional tune.
yeah, like a traditional thing, like
Whiskey
what's
in the
the other
jar.
Irish whiskey in the jar or
Yep.
something. It might be one of those type of songs.
Yeah,
But the
that
Pogues
happens a lot.
version of it is phenomenal.
My next one is this is a classic and I don't think you'll have it on your list because it's too predictable. Um but The Day the Music Died
Yeah,
is um even as a little kid, like again, we're talking 70s radio and it was everywhere, right? I mean that's a long song too, man. It's not a 3-minute pop ballad.
no,
Um but I can remember as a kid how emotion that what that did. It touched emotions
it
in me that I didn't quite get even.
exactly. It
Like
was sad, but you didn't know why.
right. I mean I knew there was something to it. There was just lines in it that even as an adult that that haunt me for some reason and now knowing the subject matter and everything it's a whole another thing but I mean, that's a beautiful song, and it, like I said, it emotionally did something that like I don't understand right now. Even like as a kid, I don't think I had the emotion. I know I didn't have the emotional depth to appreciate what was happening, and yet when it came on, I was sad,
Yeah,
and I had that experience a lot growing up. Songs that made me sad or made me uncomfortable on the radio. Um, I can remember Seasons in the Sun would do that to me. I would get really sad. And I don't know why. There was just something about it that made me feel a certain way that I didn't understand. And
right.
and that was the thing. And even Ode to Billy Joe is a good example. Like something felt weird to me about that, but I didn't know why. I didn't know what
Right.
it was touching in me, but it was definitely stirring up things in me that I didn't understand. So yeah, The Day the Music Died by Don McLean. My brother-in-law's claim to fame, not his claim, he never even talks about it, but he ran sound for Don McLean.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. What do you got next?
I have Sunshine by Jonathan Edwards. It's about Vietnam.
Yeah. Yep. I know that
It's
song.
on the self-titled album that has Shani and all that good
Um,
stuff on it. So that's just
Vietnam is,
fertile ground.
yeah, yeah, especially, but again, one of those topics that it needs to be in the right hands or it's just crass and it feels cheap. It feels like low hanging fruit if it's not done right.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, when it's done right, it's I mean it gives insight to an experience that those human beings who had. I mean, I don't. When you think about vets, like service veterans, and certainly veterans who saw action, um, and they you think about like I don't know about most people, but you think about like the VFW Hall or the American Legion, and you think about oh, there's a bunch of old timers down there, drinking and talking. But I can see how you would gravitate to that place because somebody would understand. Because you came home and the people around you did not understand what had happened.
yeah,
So you sought out, and I'm sure some of these songwriters hope it too, that helped process that, or at least go, hey, somebody recognizes you've been through something. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Something unique. Yeah. Jonathan Edwards too. Would you say is the biggest Jonathan Edwards hit?
Probably Sunshine.
Yeah.
But Shani is. I don't know if it's regional, if it's done, like here where they play it at 5 on Fridays and noon on
Right.
Fridays. But
God, that was
probably Sunshine.
and
Because
Shan,
everybody knows that song. They just, oh, I didn't know that was him.
right. Shanny is, I mean, was it LAV around here
Yeah,
that played it at 5 o'clock on Fridays?
they still do.
They still bullshit, really?
Oh yeah, they still do.
That's awesome. That makes me feel good for some reason. That's such a good tune too, man. I mean, it's just great. Um, a little side trip too that I need to talk publicly about. Um, because you and I, in my illness, we chatted a little bit about it. Dude, the Doctor Hook got me, man. A couple of those Doctor Hook tunes got me over this sickness, man. Rocking them pretty hard, pretty
Good.
hard, pretty hard. Yet it was never, yeah, in the cover of the Rolling Stone, I knew,
Yeah.
a few Doctor Hook tunes, but yeah, those two I told you about were really, really got me. So fun. Moving on. Let's see. What do I got next? What do you got, merch? I think I'm gonna go ahead with this song by the Tragically Hip. It's off an album called Up to Here, and it's called 38 Years Old. In 72, like 14 inmates escaped from Millhaven Maximum Security Prison in Canada. And this is kind of a fictional story about one of these guys he goes home. He goes back to his
Okay.
house. And it's the whole story. It's such a great tune, dude. I play it acoustically when I can. It never hits. It's hit once in my life. It hit one time in my life, and it was the coolest night ever. I was playing in Muskegon, downtown Muskegon, Michigan, and the bar was pretty dead. There was a hockey game at our local arena,
Oh,
and the hockey game got out, and the hockey team came. Like the hockey team came in the bar, and I thought I'm lobbing this thing up and seeing what happens. And I played 38 Years Old by the Tragically Hip, and these cats shit their pants. It was awesome. I mean, the tip jar was just bursting, and I think I played Bob Cajun. I played 38 Years Old. I played maybe one other hip tune. It was really fun. Um,
I learned a Stompin' Tom song.
but there's some really good. 38 Years Old has some great lines in it. There's a line in it where he's, you know, um, the brother hears the tap on the window in the middle of the night and holds back the curtains for his older brother Mike. Turns out like their sister was raped and his older brother killed this guy. And then later in the song, they're at the house and um the kid they're at in the kitchen and the mother cries the horror has finally ceased and he says yeah for the time being at least, and then over his shoulder from the squad car megaphone, let's go Michael son, we're taking you home. Like
Oh,
it's killer. So yeah, 38 Years Old by the Tragically Hip. If you don't know that tune, check it out and report back. What do you got next?
Respite on the Spital Fields. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's by Ghost. It's all about Jack the Ripper.
Ooh, hang on. I'll write it down for Quinn.
It's on the album Impera, I think, the newest one.
Okay.
I think that's the title of it. But it's one of the last tracks on that record. It's some of the lines in it, like when the police get there, we're here in the after of a murderous crafter, and just
Oh yeah. Jack the Ripper's pretty fertile ground too for metal.
they did figure out who that was, I think, eventually,
I
didn't they? I think it
feel
was like
like
a Polish barber.
I don't know for
I think by
sure.
DNA, like not very long ago, they figured out who it was.
Really, I feel like I watched a documentary about it. The coolest thing that I still have in the other room is when I was in England in '89. I went to the wax museum, Madame Tussauds, the famous
Yeah.
wax museum. Dude, they had this whole thing of horrors, right? Like they had an Iron Maiden, an actual Iron Maiden, and all this
Oh
cool stuff.
wow.
But they had recreated in wax the crime scenes, and it was
Oh,
horrific, dude. And I took pictures like on a film camera, and I still have the pictures.
oh
It
wow.
was something else, man. Something else, yeah. And Jack the Ripper. I'm gonna throw one in now that isn't on my list, but I'm gonna put in The Ripper by Judas Priest, which is about
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So my next song is a song I've talked about on this show, and I don't know what the topic was, but I know it's been on the show. It's by Steve Earle, and it's called John Walker's Blues.
Yes.
It's off Jerusalem. Um, it's about the American Taliban. It's about the kid who was arrested during 9/11 during all, and he was this American student dude who was kind of a seeker, um if you're like a barefoot hippie dude and you're exploring spirituality, everyone's cool with it as long as it doesn't do something that makes you uncomfortable or you don't agree with.
Right.
John Walker was kind of this kid who did this. He was seeking. He was raised to be a thinking kid. He was an educated kid. He was looking, and ended up, you know, kind of this is where he wound up. They called him the American Talarat. And
Yep.
Steve Earle, the story I've told on here before, and Steve Earle has told, of course, is he goes, I saw this kid strapped to a board. They had him strapped to a board. He goes, and my first thought was he looked like he hadn't eaten in a long time. And I always have to tell my son Justin to eat.
Yeah.
So Steve Earle didn't see the Talarat. He saw his own kid in this kid's eyes and wrote
Somebody
this.
who was like a loner and
Yeah,
he
he
got
was just
accepted. He
he
got, he
you
felt
know
accepted with those people or something.
right, and that's scary, right? I mean, when you're looking
Yeah.
for acceptance, you can. My guess is, from Charles Manson, dude, to the Hell's Angels to wherever, if you're someone will accept you when you haven't been accepted. Um, that's the start, right? And you just hope that the place you're accepted is a place of of love and goodness, but it is not always of love. The Bloods and Crips are accepting kids who have nowhere to go, dude.
Who
I
was
mean,
the who said, I think it was Mark Twain that said, I would never want to be involved with any club that would have me as a member.
that's the truth. And it's the first line of the song. I'm just an American boy raised on MTV, and I've seen all the kids in the soda pop ads, but none of them look like me.
Yeah.
And I think
He
about that
has
a
a
lot.
few. Justice in Ontario, Steve Earle.
I don't know if I
That's a
know it.
good one. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
Steve
have
Earle does a good job talking about marginalized people,
he does. I
and he's
have one
Steve Earle.
by our favorite sullen friend, Jay Farrar in Sunbolt called Sultana. It's
What
about
album?
the oh, not sure.
Okay.
It's called the Titanic of the Mississippi.
Oh, really?
It's
Wow,
the
cool.
biggest American, I think, boat accident. It was six times overloaded,
Holy
and
shit.
it was like I think it was outside of Memphis or something like that when one of the boilers exploded and it was a mile each way to shore. 1,800 people died.
Oh my God.
And they were
Wow.
mostly Union slave like soldiers that they had captured. It was during the Civil
Wow.
War. Yeah.
Oh, I'll check that out.
It's a very sad song, but yeah, 6 times overloaded. And just Jay is does such a great job of describing the horror of it, and it's
Plus that
pretty dark.
voice. Plus
Yeah,
his
I know. It's
voice
a
too.
dark song.
His voice is,
American Central Dust, maybe it's on that record.
oh, yeah. Okay. Killer. Let me think what I got next. Well, I gotta keep it local. I'm keeping it local for me, and local is kind of a big term here, but if you're from where I'm from, and if you grew up when I did, um,
Yeah.
the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by
Yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot is part of your life. It's woven into your life. It was we as kids, and I've told the story before, we like examined that song and we learned about the Fitzgerald. And I mean, I swear to God, I wish I could remember, how old I was, but like I knew as a little kid how the Fitzgerald was laying on the bottom of Lake Superior, what
Yeah.
it looked like, ass end down, pilot house up, that whole thing. There was a kid I grew up with named Dave Ness. He was really into it, and he was a little bit older than us. And I believe it was Ness that brought that to our friend group. And I can remember sitting in his driveway um, when he was breaking the whole thing down, like this shipwreck. And for me now, especially, I mean, I grew up here. I grew up in Muskegon, Michigan, Port City. I live in a
Yep.
port city now. Um, I worked for a shipping company.
Yeah.
It's, dude, it's, that you think of, and I see thousand, I have seen, and I'm sure you have, and a lot of us have. I think about parts of the country that have not, or parts of the world who have not, but 1,000 foot Great Lakes freighter is an impressive piece of machinery.
Yeah.
And I've seen them come in and out of port. I've been standing on the break wall when you swear to God, dude, like in Muskegon, one would come through and you would feel like you could put your hand out and touch it. And like they were barely clearing that thing. And then to think that the Arthur Anderson, 1 minute you're on the radar and the next minute you're gone. That's
Yeah.
unreal. There's no mayday, it's just gone. Gone. Sucked up by
Yeah.
Lake Superior, a place where I have stood, a place where my feet have been. Every time I'm in Lake Superior, I think to myself, they're here. Those guys, those 29 men are here somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just unreal, man. So, and I mean, Gordon Lightfoot he handled that. I mean, he took a lot of heat too. I mean, there was a commercial in the 70s, maybe 80s. No, it was 70s, where they had like a cartoon of the ship going to this whole, it was in bad taste, dude. And
Yeah.
and I don't know that Gordon Lightfoot had a single thing to do with that. That would be a
Right.
record label thing. It was back then you could buy the single on TV, you know. So yeah, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. What do you got next?
I have let's see, DB Cooper by Todd Snyder.
I know that song.
I mean, everybody knows the story of DB Cooper, whether it's folklore or real, or I mean, it's real, but whether he lived or died is still.
have have you ever heard about the Todd Snyder and this has nothing to do with DB Cooper or the song or anything, but have you heard about the time it snowed in East Nashville, that Todd Snyder and a bunch of his cronies, like a bunch of those East Nashville people, got they were like stoned and drunk one day and decided to make it snow in East Nashville. Like Elizabeth Cook is part of this thing. So they
Right.
started like calling the TV station in Nashville and going, shit, dude, it's snowing in East Nashville. It was like 50 some degrees. Like they call from, and this is always a big deal to me because I played there and I always felt cool about it. They called from like the Radio Tavern in East Nashville, like,
Okay.
hey man, I'm at the Radio Tavern and it's snowing outside. And they're all calling. They got this phone tree and they're all calling the news in Nashville. They all gather up at 5 o'clock and they're at someone's house in East Nashville. And sure as shit on the news, they're like, in other news today, snow in East Nashville. That Todd Snyder and his friends made it snow in East Nashville, man. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Okay, moving on. Let's see. What do I got? This is to call it historical might be, it's got historical reference. It's got great history of music and of the South. Of course, if I mention the South, you know who it's going to be. Um, it's Ronnie and Neil by the Drive-By Truckers.
Oh yeah.
And, it's about the feud between the quote unquote feud between Neil Young and
Yeah.
Ronnie Van Zant. But it's also the opening line of that song. Church blows up in Birmingham, 4 little black girls killed for no goddamn good reason.
Yeah.
And it's Patterson Hood talking about, he even says it's a stain on the good name, you know, that even me growing up, I mean, it was so weird to grow up when I did because the South and that culture was really big in the 70s. It was the bandit, it was trucking,
Yeah.
it was all that Southern stuff, right? And it was cool. And it was Skinner and it was 38 Special and it was the Almonds and it was all this cool stuff. Um, but you also forget just how the South was dragged through the mud by, you know, people who made decisions that, most Southerners, a lot of Southerners didn't agree with, you know. It's like Steve Earle says in one of his songs, I don't even know what I'm fighting for. I never owned a slave.
Right.
It's like, and that this song, Ronnie and Neil talks a lot about that. And that whole album, if you get a chance, I know you know it, of course, and some of our listeners do, but Southern rock opera will really educate you about what it means to be Southern in the modern time. And
Yeah.
it's not a bunch of, flag waving, quote unquote rednecky, whatever you want. And redneck, there's another thing, man. That's just a farmer. That's just someone who works outside.
Yeah.
But Ronnie and Neil really talk about, and there's some great songs on that album. I mean, the Southern thing is a great song. But Ronnie and Neil is just, it really is a Southern, there's a history in the South. Um, I don't know. You think about everyone, a lot of my heroes, Tom Petty, you know, Southern accents and things like that. Yeah, that Ronnie and Neil, they handle that song handles that topic about as well as any. So yeah, Drive By Truckers. What do you got next?
I have Yankee Rose by David Lee Roth. It's all about the
What?
Statue of Liberty.
Hang on, I'm gonna have to mute a second to cough. Okay. Oh man, Scott always coming through when I need him about the Statue of Liberty, which is true.
It is.
That's a
Yeah.
great tune, dude. That's such a fun song to play. It's such a fun song to listen to. It's such a there's another thing
It's
oh
probably
dude,
the first thing I heard after California Girls from David Lee Roth,
me too.
exiting Van Halen. I was like, whoa, okay.
Dude, when I saw that video, remember the whole long video with that, I mean,
His videos were the best.
even my kid loves it.
Is that
To
the
this
one
day.
where he pulls up in a convertible?
It's where he goes into the convenience store.
Yeah,
And it's like Roth is there as that's the give me a bottle of anything and a glazed
the
donut to
glazed
go.
donut to go.
It's all the little characters and he and his manager Pete Angelus, I think I probably mispronounced his name a little bit there, but they had this production group. They were called the Something Brothers. Um, and like David Lee Roth was in this big fat suit. He was the fat guy,
Yeah,
and Pete was there, and they used these characters in the video for "Going Crazy," the
yep.
other song.
They
Um,
used them. Oh God, something else too.
yeah, they did for sure.
But yeah, that the lady was. My doctor said I'm supposed to take some laxative.
Not that my store
Not in
you
my
don't.
store. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that needs to be said is, and I've already said in '86, I was a 5150 Van Halen fan too. But to bring it like 5150 did not bring it like old Van Halen.
No.
Eat 'em and Smile. was old Van Halen. It
Yes.
was good times. Plus, there's great songs on there. Vi plays amazing. It's got groove. It's got, Ladies' Night in Buffalo.
Yeah, I was just
It,
gonna say that one.
I mean, there's just their cover of Tobacco Road is on there, going crazy. The great Tallis tune, Shy Boy, that,
Yeah,
and again, when I saw that in '86 live, I to this day, dude, I still have not seen anything like it, and I've never ever seen a guitar player do what Vi did live, never. And it was big. It was rough. It filled it allowed me to love 5150. Like 5150 was more like, and for lack of a better word, but like Journey. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It was a little more polished and poppier, and so I had this new band, which I'll call Van Hagar, and I still could get David Lee Roth to give me my Van Halen fix too. My old
yeah.
good time Van Halen. Yeah,
You got if you're into the guitar, you got Vi.
dude. If
So
you're into the guitar, you got Vi. If you're a bass player, you've got Billy Sheen. If you're a drummer, you got Greg Bissonette. I still send. It's 2025, and I still send my son videos of Greg Bissonette because he's such a well-rounded musician. He's
so
played with
good.
Ringo forever, and I mean they were just unstoppable, dude. And Cinderella opening. I mean,
He did a fusion record with Richie Kotzen.
Bissonette.
Yeah,
All those dudes though. That's like Kotzen and Bissonette and Jason Becker and Marty Friedman and Paul Gilbert and all those they're GIT guys. They're learned musicians. I mean,
yeah.
they all rip, but they're learned musicians. And Vi was one of those guys too. Yeah, what a great pick, Scott. He picks David Lee Roth. That's a good one, man. Um, this song is by one of my favorite bands ever, called The Band, and it's The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down.
Yep.
And loosely, there's some historical elements to it. I had heard from an interview with Robbie Robertson that song came about because um Levon Helm's dad, they were with Levon Helm's dad,
Yes.
and Levon Helm's dad said it with no joking, no, tongue in cheek. He said, "Robbie, the South will rise again." He said that to Robbie Robertson. This, can you imagine? I mean, he and believed it. The South will rise again. And,
Yeah.
you know, first of all, everything about The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down by the band is the absolute shit. It's so good. It's the harmonies are killer, the subject matter's killer, Levon's drums are killer. I mean, that the way he rolls into the choruses are the weirdest thing ever because he does that big snare roll going into them. The night, it always feels like it's off, but it's on. And I mean, the what's the line? Virgil, quick, come see, here comes Robert E. Lee. I mean, killer lines in it. And if you ever want to hear a killer fun cover of it, the Black Crows. The Black Crows do it, and it's on their DVD Freak and Roll Into the Fog. They're live at
Oh,
the
okay. I don't
Fillmore.
think I've seen that.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's when they kind of got back together. Mark Ford's on guitar, it's the Crows. So check that out. What do you got
Yeah.
next?
I have Set the World on Fire by Annihilator.
I know that band, but I don't
They're
know anything by them.
Canadian.
I
It's
can
all
see their
about the
logo.
Gulf War.
Oh, cool.
91. Yeah, it came out, I believe. It I think that Aaron Randall only sang on that record. I'm not a huge, I have a bunch of Annihilator records, but that Jeff something I think is the main guy.
You know what I was? It is. I could
I can't think
almost
of
tell.
his last name, but
I could almost tell you his name, dude.
he's
Um,
super weird.
I bet this is a band you and Jeff Kerr like.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's
I
how I
knew it.
got into him, probably was Jeff Kerr.
Yeah.
But Aaron Randall, I always liked him singing, and he did. There's another band that he's in called Rectify, 2 words, and
Okay.
it's I think Greg Christian from Testament is in that with him also.
Oh, cool.
But
There's
yeah,
another one of those learned musician guys, Alex Skolnick.
yeah, I mean Greg Christian was badass. If you liked Annihilator in that record, and I just found out about Rectify a few years ago, so I think I have 2 or 3 of their albums. But I always liked his voice, and that guy, that dude from the main guy from Annihilator, I think he had a lot of interchangeable parts in that band. Like he was the only constant, I think.
There, they would have ads for their albums.
In
Um,
guitar magazines all the
yes,
time.
all
When
the
I was,
time. I can
yeah,
see their logo right now. Yep,
yeah,
Annihilator. I didn't know much about them. I don't know who they toured with. There were a handful of bands I would see advertised in magazines that I never heard to this day. Um, like there was a band called TT Quick. I remember seeing ads for them,
yeah,
Annihilator. And then there'd be some that kind of broke through a little bit, like Halloween. You know, they
yep,
they kind of came up, and I don't know. There was a record label, Megaforce. Yeah,
yep,
Megaforce. They would sign a lot of that stuff, so you'd get some of that. And of course, you and I have talked at length about all the Mike Varney stuff,
yep.
and the Shrapnel stuff. So yeah, killer. Um, moving on. This is so many songs I wanted to pick because I could have done my whole list from this band, as I've mentioned. Um, I guess I'll go "Run to the Hills" by Iron Maiden.
Okay.
Again, that's the here's the killer part about, and you could go from everything from the Trooper, um,
Alexander the Great is on my
Alexander the
list.
Great, Stranger in a Strange Land, the Prisoner. I mean, you could go on and on and on and on and on. But Run to the Hills was cool for me because it was an British band. First of all, it was a hit. It was a huge hit, and I've already said how impactful um, the Number of the Beast was to me as an Iron Maiden fan. Um, that Bruce Dickinson's first record, but it's talking about the Native American plight of the English settlers from an English band. And if you listen to Run to the Hills, it changes perspective. At one, there is the perspective of the Native Americans who are
Yep.
here, and there's also um the perspective of the English who are hunting and killing's a game, raping the women and wasting the men. I mean,
Yeah.
that's now we did not talk about that in my seventh grade history class,
No.
but that's how it was, dude. I mean, it was just literally slaughtering. It was a slaughtering. And here's this heavy metal band where even in 1982, Too Fast for Love, right?
Yeah.
Too Fast for Love is out, and there's a lot of poppy, fun metal, and then bands like Iron Maiden were coming out, and then it was, now we had serious subject matter that I thought was in danger, not in danger, but was, even the haters at my school, like the teachers and people who, all that stuff, they could not find fault in the subject matter. It was,
Yeah.
you could say, oh, you're some stoner heavy metal loser, but yet I knew more about even the plight of the Native Americans than some of the smart kids did, who weren't sniffing glue and smoking reefer. I mean, really, we and we were paying attention to the words because we were metalheads, and that's what we did. You know, a lot of my contemporaries and my friends, we paid attention, dude. We were dudes who would pay attention to what you were saying in a song because we loved it so much
Yeah.
that we wanted to know, and we would sit with the album and read the lyrics, and um not everybody did that, dude. Not everybody did that. The cool kids who were maybe rocking on um and I I love all sorts of music, so I can't even make fun, but who maybe were in 82, they were rocking the Cars. They weren't investing like we were. They weren't sitting like we were. They weren't dissecting and listening and having conversation. Yes, the conversations were often punctuated with marijuana and bullshit, but we were also really exploring those things and asking questions about it, and which
Yeah.
is pretty cool for a bunch of Midwestern losers. I mean,
Yeah.
Cat Scratch Fever didn't do that.
No.
you know it was just it was kind of cool for it made me. I can remember Maiden was one of those bands too where I felt Megadeth was like that too, where you felt like you were smart almost because you listened to something that had some substance to it besides just Out go the lights, in go with my knife, pull out his life, consider that bastard dead. I mean, there
Yeah.
was that too. What do you got next?
From my friend Peter Cooper. And I don't even know if this song was ever released, but he has a song I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before. It's called Old Strom. It's all about Strom Thurmond
Yep,
from
you have mentioned this
South
song.
Carolina.
Yep.
It's hilarious and sad at the same time because he was such an asshole, racist piece of shit and just, but it tells a real story wrapped up in a pop song, and that's what the good ones can do. I mean, it's not a historical song, but I talk about him too much lately. But Ike Riley, he has
Yeah.
a song called "Put a Little Love in It," and it's all about this guy he knew who he was a Ike was a gravedigger for a little while.
Oh,
And
wow.
this guy was like super rich, well known in the town, and he just quit his job and started digging graves. And Ike was working on this one. Well, he was around a gravestone that was a friend of his from when he was a kid, and he's trying to clean up around this. There's one of those flat stones that's in the ground.
Yeah.
He's trying to clean up the grass around it and make it level. And the guy's like, "Oh, you got to put a little love in it." And
Oh,
that guy ended up with dementia, and he was hurting, and he had shingles, I think, too. And he went and he lit himself on fire. He committed
holy crap.
suicide. Yeah, he's
Holy
got he said the whole song is he says he lit himself on fire out at the tollway lake, burned up at the stake, as his flesh cracks and flakes. You better know, you better put a little love in it. I mean, he just
Ooh.
turns it into this magical, catchy ass pop song, a dark ass event like that, as a tribute to a friend of his.
Oh, that's killer. And that's it too, right? Bringing Lucinda Williams does that too. I mean, a lot of great songs. It's just that dark, taking that dark matter and somehow conveying it in that fashion is mind blowing to me. It's
He
just
says at the beginning of the song, I think the guy's name was John. He says, "Last time I saw John, he said, you ain't nothing but a sham. You came here as a faker, but you're leaving as a fan."
yeah. All right, let's see. Oh, this is my last one. About to wrap it up.
But
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Old Strom by Peter Cooper. I don't know if you can find that song, but
How did you get a
it
hold of it?
if you're our age and you remember Strom,
Oh,
like seeing
yes.
him as a kid, I was like, why does that guy have the craziest orange hair? It looked like Peter says in the song, he dyed this color, his hair, this strange color of orange, like a Bare Children's aspirin or a Clemson University T-shirt that was soaked in a chlorinated pool and left to dry in the back seat of your cousin's Camaro on a hot day. It's just man, I miss
That's
Peter Cooper
descriptive,
so
man.
much.
That's
So
descriptive. That is
yeah,
descriptive.
he could. I mean, and Todd's in that song in the background, like he's saying Peter's saying stuff about Strom Thurmond, and Todd's in the background saying just ridiculous things like, "I gotta go brush my teeth," and just because he was all, he said South Carolina reelected him when he was 96 years old, which is about 120 years before he died. And it's just it's hilarious, but
Well, here's my last one. This is probably one of the you talk about again an educational song. Wasn't talked about a lot when I was a kid. Wasn't talked about at all when I was a kid. Was unbelievable to me. Um, but it's the song Ohio, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
oh, how
Um,
about the Kent
about the
State?
Kent State, where
Yep,
the National Guard killed college kids. I
yeah,
mean, I mean, we all know the picture. We've all seen the famous picture, right? The girl kneeling. That happened, dude. That shit happened here.
not
And
very long ago either.
not very long ago, dude. Not very long ago. And it just goes to show you how frightening, I think, to certain people in power, that motivated young people can be. They're scared, dude. They were so, I mean, there was, they were so frightened. They killed these kids, dude. And there was another, I grew up too, again. Do you remember the movie Taps?
Uh, Vaguely, yeah.
It
I
was, it
remember the
was,
movie. I just
yes, it was, C. Thomas Howell was in it. Actually, it was a who's who of people. I think, Tom Cruise was in it. Sean Penn was in it. These guys had not been established yet. And they
right.
were at a military school and they were going to close down this military school. And so the kids, right? They fortify. They fortify this military academy because they don't want to lose this academy. And, again, it's probably budget cuts, whatever it was. Um, and then the military come in, and there was a little kid, like they had an elementary school age all the way up to high school age, and the I'll never forget the scene where they shoot this kid, this little kid, who's carrying a rifle and standing up for what he believes in or whatever, about this. But the idea, dude, that would happen in real life, that the military killed citizens in, I just, that's amazing to me on a college campus, you
Yeah.
know? And so if you, excuse me, if you ever wonder if we as people have power, that'll tell you right there, dude. You obviously a frightening amount of power if you were to get together and go, I'm done with this bullshit. Like, nobody's doing
Yeah.
this to me anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing this to us anymore. You
Yep.
would be shit. You'd be, well, you know what you'd be? You'd be laying on the ground in Ohio because it would be that frightening. So anyhow, that's a heavy, heavy subject. And you got any more?
I mean, I had 20 written down, but like Zoot Suit Riot's another one about the what was it? It was like what was Zoot Suit Riot?
It was
Was it
literally,
American servicemen and like Puerto Rican gangs or
I
something
feel like
like
it
that?
was something like that. Yep. I do. I
There
feel
was
like
the Headless Cross by Sabbath.
I have trashed by Black Sabbath, which I'm into right now. Did you see my post on our Facebook page? I'm into
Didn't
this
get.
this old Sabbath tune, not old, but like early 80s Sabbath when Ian Gillan from Deep Purple
Yeah.
joined Black Sabbath. It's not a
Yep.
good song, dude. It's not a good
Okay.
song, but I love it. And it's about when Ian Gillan took Bill Ward's car, all drunk, and stole Bill
Oh,
Ward's car. Um,
the
I,
Elephant Riders by Clutch is cool about I think it was like the King of Siam wanted to send the South like a bunch of elephants to use during the war.
wow, wow. I have one by Metallica.
Yep.
Um,
I think on our Facebook, our friend Dan had Cult of Personality,
that's a great tune. That's a
the
great
Tommy
band.
Cash song
Oh, Six White
by,
Horses.
yep,
Yep, I play that sometimes. That tanks as well. I have Smoke on the Water.
yep, about
That happened.
the
That's the fire, studio
the
fire.
fire
Yep,
when the mothers were playing.
yep. Let me see what else I got. No,
Spanish
that's
Bombs by the Clash,
the Clash. You could probably really
a
dig
bunch
through
of
and find
them.
a ton
Yeah.
of them. I, I mean everything. I still rock. London Calling, um, Safe European Home. I'm so bored with the USA. That's one of my favorite Clash songs of all time. Yeah, great stuff.
Bye Bye Bad Man about the 1968 student riots. That's by the Stone Roses
Ooh, my wife loves Stone Roses.
from the first record, from the self-titled record. So
Well, I'm first of all, I'm glad we were able to get this out. I'm hoping you're gonna wrap this up and go rest and get healthy. I'm gonna try to keep doing the same thing, buddy. I'm so sorry you don't feel good. Um, Everybody else out there, wash your hands, and if you don't feel good, dude, please, at least be considerate of others. It sucks. Again, health is such a big deal, and I would never wish this on anyone. So, you got any parting words for us, Scott?
Take my blue-eyed son. He's a beautiful one. He's got angel hair and a Tommy gun. Out all night with his mom looking for a rave with some ecstasy. No, I screwed it up.
Well, then take it again, man. This is your broadcast. You can do it
I
as many
screwed
times
it
as you
up.
want. You're gonna have to take it again.
Oh God.
Hey, you're ill. We're gonna let, or you've probably cost us listeners. I hope you're happy.
I take my blue-eyed son. He's a beautiful one. He's got angel hair and a Tommy gun. Stayed out all night long looking for a rave with his pretty mom and some ecstasy. I played him Boy Named Sue. Now he hates his name. Said when he turns 18, he's gonna blow me away.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Feel better, buddy.
Woo. See you next
See you,
time.
Scotty.